Hey everyone, Sir Jellybean here, and we are back with something a little bit different. We've got a preview of the new DLC for Terminator Fate Defiance. It is We Are Legion, and this is the DLC where you get to take control of Legion, aka Skynet. So if you haven't played Terminator Fate Defiance, the base game, it was fantastic little RTS. Had a few issues. I bought the game back when it came out, and I did give up on it. I was not the biggest fan, but the DLC is a massive improvement. The developers have listened and learned a lot. So, you obviously take control of the robots, the AI, and you're hunting down humans in the campaign. And we are seeing massive improvements across the board. Better army management, better gameplay, and simplified and more tactical. And I'm going to take you through all the good and the bad. So, let's jump straight into it. So firstly, what do you get in the new DLC? So for the price of £10, which is a fair price, I'd say it's a well-priced DLC, you get a brand new single-player campaign where you take control of Legion, let's say Skynet, and quite a lot of missions. You get a nice mix of search and destroy missions, some defense, even some of the dreaded kind of infiltration slash stealth missions, but they're actually pretty well done in this campaign, far better than the base game is campaign. And obviously you get the armor management still, because it is a dynamic campaign, but they have simplified it where it needs to be, but still left a lot of tactical flexibility, which is fantastic. I really like it. Now, one key thing which will bring you back, and I would say even if you didn't like the first game's campaign, is firstly, they've made it so you take a small core of units from one mission to the next, but you always have the kind of base factory units available for that mission, which means, unlike the first campaign, where if you didn't take the exact correct choice of units, which would make certain missions basically unwinnable, you always have a chance to beat the missions. No matter what you kind of tailor your units to be, you always have access to what you need to finish that mission, which is great, because in the first campaign, basically you had to take certain things, otherwise it was nearly unwinnable. I actually found that I had to restart that campaign many times and I still didn't finish it, which was a poor choice in my opinion. Some people would say, oh, that's more hardcore, but no, this actually makes it far more enjoyable, and it means that you don't have to spend 50 hours to beat a campaign that should be 10, 15 hours, which is great. They've also expanded the customization of individual units. So, as you can see here, you have different unlockables, like upgrades, which you can unlock through the campaign. And you can concentrate on, for instance, if you want to concentrate on your swarm drones, or your tanks, or your Rev 6s, which are the T800s, or the homoculi, which are the T600s. There's tons of choice, and you really can tailor your army. Some people will say, oh, no, you still have to play a certain way. You don't actually. You can go very infantry heavy, you can go very vehicle heavy. If you want to kind of let your spider robots, you want to upgrade them with ATGMs and have them as tank hunters, you can kind of go that way. And you only get a limited amount of these units to deploy in the next mission. You have so many of these blueprints, but it does mean you have like an elite robot cadre or honor guard that you get to use, plus your standard Terminator units. And the story kind of explains why you have this as well. You also have, like I said, different blueprints that you actually take in. They're from your upgrades separate. So the upgrades are passive, but then you actually choose what you want to take in. And the thing is, you don't have to take in the best thing. You can actually downgrade certain vehicles. So for instance, some of the upgrades, most things are on with plasma, being that you're the robots, but you can actually upgrade them with standard kind of high explosive weaponry. And it will have pros and cons. So it kind of gives you a bit of it's a bit strange because you think, oh, Legion would be all super high tech, but you can kind of downgrade some units. And for instance, if you want your Rev 6s to walk around with miniguns and Brett 50 cals or rocket launchers, you can, or if you want to have them with plasma weapons and energy weapons, you can. So anything that fits your flavor and your playstyle, you can do, which I think is fantastic. And yeah, it's a lot more simplified, the army management, which I love. It made the campaign series or the campaign missions a hell of a lot better. I would say, even if you didn't like the first campaign, give this one a try. I was like, oh no, I didn't really like the first campaign. I've played this one. I think I'm 6 missions through, and I will be playing it till the end. And I probably will replay it and put it on the channel because I'm enjoying it that much. It really is a massive improvement over the last one. So they've done fantastic when it comes to the campaign. Another massive improvement that they've added is before every mission, you get a tactical breakdown. You get to see the map, and you get a description from Legion Command, I guess. And it will tell you kind of the enemy that you're going to verse. So if you're versing the integrators, it might say they have large amounts of plasma weaponry on light vehicles. If you're versing the founders, you're expected to come up against large amounts of ATGMs, which are still extremely lethal and are the tank and Rev 6 killers. It'll also tell you the terrain you're going up against, kind of fortifications, and obviously you get the view of the map, which kind of means if you can see a large amount of buildings, you might think, well, I need more infantry in my blueprints, which is cool. And if you see a more open field, just say, right, more tanks and more light vehicles and mobile firepower. So I really do like that as well. You kind of know what you're going into a bit. It feels a bit more like a tactical kind of military simulation where it's like, here's the mission, this is the layout. And being that you're playing as the AI, you are actively going through a logical thing of what do I need to bring to this battle to win? And it's not simply, I don't know what I'm going into, chuck me in. So I do really like that. And the kind of tactical breakdown did kind of give me a war room feel, which is, yeah, I think that was a great addition as well. It just made the missions a little bit more fun. And it made the prep better because if you know what you're going into, you're not going to be as frustrated when you actually go in the mission. So another really great thing. Now, when you actually get in the missions as well, I found that they, first of all, the combat was, it always takes a bit of combined arms, but it was more fun. The enemies were a bit smarter than in the base campaign. I found that you always are kind of outnumbered. But you do bring a large force. You bring hundreds of Terminators in. You bring large amounts of vehicles, and sometimes you do have an overwhelming force against your enemies. But you expect to, you're normally on the attack. Ambushes will happen, but also the triggers in the missions worked a lot better than the first campaign series. So, for instance, one mission you're attacking some Legion units that have kind of gone out of control, shall I say. I won't ruin the story for you, but then the Founders show up halfway through the mission and come from your rear lines. Now, in the first campaign, that normally would be broken. In this, even though it was tough, and I will say the game is very tough, it did require a few restarts here and there, but it works a lot better, and there's always a chance of like, oh, the enemy is now coming from the rear, or they've ambushed me. This is how I get out of that, or I have to adapt and be flexible. But I never felt like they just threw stupid amounts of tanks and APCs against me, like in the first campaign. So it felt more fair and more balanced. I played it on the normal difficulty because I'm not too good at this game, but I enjoyed it. I didn't feel like I was just banging my head against a brick wall. And it also allowed me to be more tactically flexible, shall I say, with the use of things like, kamikaze drones and infantry. And I just felt like I could actually command the missions the way I wanted. And really, this is how the first campaign should have been. This DLC, this campaign as Legion, really has hit the nail on the head. And I would just say to developers, if you're watching, this is fantastic. If you're going to do more DLC campaigns like this, it's brilliant. I will play every single one. I'll buy every single one because it really is great in that sense. It's not perfect. There's still a few downsides, but the missions are fun. There's good diversity to them. There's good tactical flexibility, and it actually got me playing till 2 in the morning, which I haven't done since. The only game I played that recently is Stalker 2. But yeah, it actually typically kept me playing for hours, and that is very rare these days. So yeah, really good mission and combat gameplay, and really felt like I was in the kind of Terminator future war where an endless ongoing slog against my enemies, and I just had to keep playing the next mission and killing more of my human enemies and, well, I guess machine enemies at certain points as well. Because the story does take a few twists and turns, which, I enjoyed quite a lot. The sounds and graphics of the game are basically the same as the base game. They're still good. You've got that kind of 80s feel to the plasma guns and the bullets going off. And yeah, everything looks fairly decent. It's not going to blow you away. It's not an amazing graphical game, but yeah, it's passable. I think it's decent. It looks okay. And it did run well. I had some issues, but I think they were more to my laptop. I had to restart the game a couple of times when I installed it, but after that, it has run well. I'm not packing an amazing rig. Pretty average actually, and I'm running all the settings on ultra. So yeah, it's not a too taxing game, which is good for you people with a bit of a potato computer. Nothing wrong with that. So you don't need to have the top tier game PC to play it, which is nice. There are a few little niggles technically. Pathfinding is a little bit wonky at times. You do have to micro it a bit. Sometimes your units are going to take stupid pathfinding decisions, and because of how the game is, it's very much about terrain as well. Like sometimes there'll be little kind of ditches and undulating terrain that will block line of sight. So, for instance, ATGM teams will clip terrain if you're not watching too closely. So you're definitely going to micro, and slow and steady is definitely the way to play it. Also, there is a little bit of an issue, and I will show it here, where enemy units sometimes get stuck in certain bits of cover or parts of the building where you can't kind of shoot them, or unless you maneuver your units into a really awkward spot, which can allow the enemy to kill a crap ton of units. Like I lost tons of Homoculi to just one guy at certain points, or the odd Rev 6, because the AI kind of glitched into a bit of cover. Now, it's only a minor issue, but just be aware of that. It can be frustrating, especially when the missions are, as I say, it's a tough game. It's very, very difficult, even on medium. Everyone agrees it is a hard RTS game, and sometimes a squad can be the difference between victory or defeat. So losing units to kind of a glitchiness is irritating, but hopefully that can get kind of patched and fixed. If so, that'd be perfect. But yeah, no kind of major issues. I actually think everything run pretty well, and just some small things, but nothing too bad. So just hopefully an update in the 2 or 3 months, because the game is alive, which is nice. I thought the game was dead, so this DLC has breathed new life into it, and hopefully we'll see many new updates to kind of fix these small issues in the game. So the big question, is the DLC worth it? Yes, 100%. It's for £10, which is less than an hour's minimum wage, so it's a very fair price. You get a really good campaign, you get some great mission variety, new unit customization, and one of the big things, a big step forward for Terminator Dark Fate Defiance. The game is alive, it is well, and I think if this DLC does well, and this is the quality of DLCs that we could see coming out for the game, there's actually many years left in this game. And obviously, being a big fan of Call to Arms Gates for Lost Front, remember where that game was a couple of years back? Terminator Dark Fate Defiance could be even better. And if the developers are watching, I would say your next DLC or your next plan, if you can make some kind of dynamic campaign, more like, if you've seen Gates of Hell's Dynamic Conquest series, something like that with this game would be fantastic. I would play it to death. And I do think there's a bright future for the game. And yeah, improvements all around. Not many negatives, like I said, just a few issues with the AI here and there in pathfinding, but massive improvements all over. And yeah, absolutely fantastic value. And obviously, anything Terminator is great as well, guys. If you are Terminators fans, when they've built a good product, and I think this DLC is, do support it, because we don't really get much good Terminator games. There's probably this game and Terminator Resistance, which was good, but there's very few good Terminator games out there, and I do hope this sells well. I do hope this game kind of comes back to life, because I hadn't played it a long time. I thought it was dead, and I do hope we see a lot more from Terminator Dark Fate Defiance. And I will be bringing some admission to the channel. I'm going to bring some of the best missions out of the new DLC to the channel, so you guys can see what it's like smashing humans to bits as Legion. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this kind of review. Well, it is a review. Thanks again for giving me a copy from the developers. I've really enjoyed it, and I hope to see you all on the battlefield. Have a good night, everyone, and you guys take it easy.